And I realized that, at least in my situation and in a lot of their situations, once they could fix sleep, it was like mental health improved. They were able to, cook more healthier foods. They could think about going back to school or think about, starting a new job, think about starting a counseling program or think about exercising again. And it was just easier for them to enjoy being parents. When you
Mm.
are sleep deprived, all those things are just so much more difficult.
Hello, and welcome to the Twin Mom Life Podcast. I'm your host, Jess. I created this podcast to help build community, connection, and most importantly, friendships among moms of multiples. Being a twin mom can be amazing and magical. That twin bond is unlike anything I've ever witnessed. But it can also be isolating and overwhelming. I'll be chatting with other twin moms, diving deep into the twin experience, giving advice on what works for us so you don't have to learn the hard way. Juggling two babies at the same time is challenging, but I'm confident we can learn from each other and figure out how to raise these babies together. Hey, welcome to the podcast today. I have Laura. Hi.
Hey there. Hi. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
absolutely. Okay, so I'm so excited for today's topic because we are going to talk all things twin sleep, which is so huge for all moms, but I feel like especially twin moms. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Laura Van Leuven, and I live in the Twin Cities. I have 5 kids, actually. My oldest is a singleton, she's 12, and then my twins are 2 fraternal boys, they're 10, and then I have another boy who's 5, and then I have my 5th child is a 2-year-old, little boy as well. So, yeah, I'm a nurse. I have been a nurse since 2008, mostly working in the emergency department, but I spent several years as a maternal child public health nurse here in the Twin Cities area. And then now I help parents of twins get their twins to sleep all night.
Hallelujah. I feel like that is so huge. And we're going to get into all of that. But before we do, what did you do today or what are you planning to do to fill your own cup?
Well, yeah, it's been a wild morning, but I do plan to. I'm hoping the sun is gonna be shining again. February in Minnesota is kinda dicey, but the last few days I've been, taking my 4 of my little ones on a walk outside and just splashing in the puddles and looking at the ducks, and I'm hoping to do that again today because it's so nice the last few days here after a very cold January, so
Well, that sounds nice to get out and get some vitamin D. That's so great.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, I feel like talking to twin moms always fills my cup. So this is that part
Yeah.
of it. And then tonight I'm going to go to yoga and I'm so excited to do that. I'm looking forward to my evening yoga class for sure.
That's amazing.
So before we get into twin sleep and tips and stuff on that, can you
Mhm.
talk about your twins and how you found out about them and you were living in a different country at the time?
Yeah, so my husband and I actually moved to East Africa when our oldest daughter was around 8 months old, and we moved to a little country kind of up in the Horn of Africa called Djibouti. It is like tiny little place. It's like the size of Massachusetts. It is the hottest inhabited country in the world. Yeah, so it's kind of in a weird spot. It's situated by Somalia and Ethiopia and Eritrea, and then like the Gulf of Aden. So like on the other side is Yemen. And it's just sort of this like really safe, stable little bastion of freedom in a very like unstable region of the world. And so
Mm.
it was a great place to set up an NGO. And so we were helping with doing a relief NGO there, um, to be able to serve people who were in difficult situations, but we were able to live in a stable place. So my husband and I went there in, I guess it would have been 2014. And we were raising our daughter there. It was, it was a wild adventure.
I
Some
bet.
days were Some days were very just boring. It was hot. We decided, we wanted to have a second child. We thought, 2 kids, that's kind of like not really a rule, but sort of an unspoken, like if you're an overseas worker, 2 kids is kind of like the max because, logistics and travel and all
Hmm.
that. And so we decided to have one more. And for the summer, we flew to Kenya and went for our first OB appointment, and they, told us it was twins, and just so many questions were brought up for us. We talked to our leadership and they suggested that we return to the US to give birth to them just because of the high risk nature of having twins and the limited at the time there was limited availability of like a NICU even in a more modern city like Nairobi. I think that has changed now, but at the time that was the recommendation. So we came back to Minneapolis and that's where they were born. Thankfully, my pregnancy was uncomplicated. They were born at 36 weeks. They were big boys. They were each were over 6 pounds. So no
That's
NICU
great.
time, no special care. It was just a really, um, yeah, like a boring pregnancy and delivery.
That's
I mean,
good.
other than the fact that I was huge and I could hardly walk. But yeah, it was so that was great. And we thought, like, okay, we've been through a baby before. What's, another one or two? Like, we understand sleep. We know what it's like to take care of, this is still fresh in our mind, how to change a newborn diaper. Like, it's just going to be two of them. It's going to be fine. And I just remember like being in the recovery area after my C-section and they were like crying. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm outnumbered. Like, my husband wasn't there. It was just me. And I was like, what do I do? There's two of them. Like, I can't just pick one up. Like, how do I even pick two up? Like, I just remember feeling like in that moment, like, I am really outnumbered now.
Hmm.
Um, and I was discharged from the hospital. They were just a little underweight, and so the hospital asked if we wanted them to stay for another night, just to make sure their weight gain was going well. I guess it was their weight loss. They had lost over 10% of their body weight, and so they
Okay.
were just a little concerned about that. And I was like, "Yeah, I'll stay." They let me stay even though I was like discharged. And I just remember the nurse coming into me in the middle of the night to she was bringing me the babies, like, "It's time to feed them," and I was like, "Can I please take you home with me?" And I was really, really serious. I was like, "I don't know how I'm gonna do this." But so, yeah, we obviously, I didn't get to take that wonderful nurse home with me. I wish I did, but, uh, we just, it was trial by fire. I mean, our daughter was like I said, she was 2. She still wasn't sleeping all night. I
Hmm.
really just didn't know that I could, like, help her with that very much. So we were just being woken up a lot. I was having a lot of trouble with breastfeeding them at the same time. So, we were doing like the triple feed, where you breastfeed and
So
then you do
hard.
the syringe or a bottle and then you pump and oh my gosh. My husband and I finally, after like a week or two, realized like, okay, we really have to do something here. And we were pretty broke at the time. And we did have a significant tax return that year. And so we were like, okay, how many hours can we get out of a doula to come and stay overnight and watch them for us? So we were able to kind of calculate out 2 nights a week, having somebody come and stay with them for a few weeks before we headed back to Djibouti.
Mm.
And so that was a godsend. And then we decided to split up the night. So like I would sleep from like 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. and in like a little guest room. We were staying with my parents and then we put the twins in our room and then my husband would go to bed at 3 a.m. and then he would get up at 9 and then he would go to work.
That's exactly what we did. Like, we
Yeah.
took shifts so that one at
Yeah.
least one parent was getting solid sleep, and then we would switch. So,
Yep.
yeah, we did the same thing. Survival.
It was survival, and we just kind of, like nobody was, like, worried about, like, making sure we were laying a good foundation for sleep, and it was just like, we're just surviving, we're just improvising constantly. Because my daughter was still getting up, like I said. So it was like you were really managing three kids during those years. So when they turned 3 months, our like time was up. It was like, well, either you come back or like you have to talk about, you're sad because we were actually gone from work. So my husband was doing like some online stuff to support like, website design, that sort of thing. But we were actually like gone for 6 months. And so we went back the day our twins turned 3 months, which was actually just like the worst timing ever because we went back in May and it was very, very hot there. It was also Ramadan, and Djibouti is a
Mm.
majority Muslim country. And so it pretty much shuts down because of the heat. And then, everyone is fasting. Um,
Oh, wow. And how hot are we talking?
oh gosh, like I'm telling you, I could say temperatures well over 100 every day. I mean, the whole country shuts down in the middle of the day for at least, 2 to 3 hours, and then life sort of happens again after 4 p.m. And I'm saying like the ants would come out of the like we would turn the air conditioning on in a room, and the ants would come out of the wall and they would start, walking along the wall in their little trail. And then when you turn the air conditioning off, you would just be able to see them, like, shrivel up and die from the heat as the room heated up. It was like
Wow.
we had a, oh my gosh, this is so gross. We had a cockroach nest in this bathroom that we, like, never used, and it must have come up through the drain of the shower because again, we
Oh,
never
no.
used that bathroom, and it hatched in there, and there was, like, this smell. I was like, "What is that smell?" And we opened up this door that we never used, and here they are, like, coming out, and you could just watch them, and they would just die of the heat, like, where they had, like, tried to crawl out of their nest and just died.
That's
I know,
wild.
that's great. So it was really hot, and so we actually had to leave for the summer. And so we went to Kenya for the summer, and there was, like, meetings and some trainings that we were part of, and we were like, "Okay, we can do this. This is good." We had, like, people helping with our twins. Kenya Nairobi is, like, lush, green, beautiful, heaven on earth weather, and just the people Kenyans, and I'm not saying that anything Djiboutians are wonderful people too, and Kenyans are also just so warm and open and so,
Mm.
happy to have you there, and they love children so much. And it was just a dream to be there. But then we went back to Djibouti, and by that point, like, we had moved around so much. We've been on so many flights with little kids, international flights, and I was over. Oh, and also when we flew back to Djibouti when they were 3 months old, like, they lost our bags, and there's not like a Target you can go to.
Oh my
So
gosh.
so that was like a huge stress. But anyway, so September came, we're back in Djibouti. We're getting into like our school, our program is up and running, that we were working with. And I just like spiraled and lost my ever loving mind. We're not sleeping. We are not. And that was like everything. It was so hot. It was so stressful. Everything was thrown off. We had no good routines. And I just spiraled, and our leadership very lovingly told us it's time to go. And so there was also like a team or like another group that was working in Nairobi, and they invited us to go and join that area. It was just like I said, a more manageable place to live, more modern. There were things not Target, but like Target there,
Mhm.
where we, could go shopping. It was a very modern city, wonderful place to live and raise a family. So we were there. Our contract was done when our twins turned 2.5. Our daughter was 4.5. And we just decided not to renew. So we came back and permanently landed in the Twin Cities, where I'm from, where I met my husband, and then we started our life here in 2018. I started working. My husband actually decided to stay home full time. We realized one of us really needed to because of daycare costs.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah,
I feel that. I
we
mean,
just,
I did that. I started
yeah,
staying home when the boys were born because the
yeah,
cost of daycare for 3 kids,
yeah,
2 of them being infants, just didn't make sense.
right. It's like, oh, my husband's entire salary working for a nonprofit here was going to go to almost covering the cost of daycare.
You
Yeah.
know?
And then odds are somebody's going to be sick. So I just had more earning power as a registered nurse. I had always wanted to do public health. I didn't quite know what that meant.
I actually have my master's in public health.
Oh, do you?
I
Okay.
do, yeah, I have my MPH.
Oh, cool. Yeah, awesome. So it can mean so many different things. I had just always been, I had, before we had gone overseas, I had worked as an emergency department nurse. And I loved it, but it's high stress, crazy hours, crazy situations, but I really liked it. And I was like, I just don't know if my heart is ready to go back into that kind of like chaotic, high stress situation. And I took one public health course when I was in nursing school, and it just always fascinated me, like the idea of sort of stopping disease further upstream than like in the emergency room when it's
Mhm.
like, yeah, you're at crisis point. And
Right.
so I looked into it, and I found that at least in the Twin Cities where we were living, there was this amazing program for moms with babies who were just different risk factors, and you as a nurse came alongside and could partner with them in helping them, with all sorts of issues that they might have, whether it was breastfeeding or preparing for labor, sleeping, bonding with their children, helping them figure out how to get back into school or get back into work, how to help them identify mental health issues,
That's so
figuring out
cool.
plans. It was such a fun job that I had. And, I worked there from 2018 through 2021. So I worked during the COVID times, and that really changed everything. But my husband did find a job full time, and that he really wanted to do and loved. And so I wanted to be home more with the kids. At that point, we had baby number 4, and so I realized that actually going back into the emergency department, I could work more part-time, I could work around
Mm.
his schedule, and so I went back to that in 2022, and, again, like, I do like working in the ER, but I really missed working with families. That was just something that I had loved so much, and so I decided to start helping families with sleep because that was one of the big issues that I help families with as a public health nurse. And I realized that, at least in my situation and in a lot of their situations, once they could fix sleep, it was like mental health improved. They were able to, cook more healthier foods. They could think about going back to school or think about, starting a new job, think about starting a counseling program, or think about exercising again. And it was just easier for them to enjoy being parents. When you
Mm.
are sleep deprived, all those things are just so much more difficult. And so that was just something that I felt was really needed. And then, of course, my experience with twins, and then I had also worked with several twin families in my public health office. I have, like, a special place in my heart for it's like once you're in this club, as you were saying, like, I love talking to other twin moms because we just get each other in a way that nobody else really can,
Mhm.
and so I found that I really enjoyed working with twin families, the unique challenges that come with twin sleep. When I was, in my sleep program, and I think it's a great program that I did, and I think the consultants coming out of that program are fantastic. However, a lot of them are intimidated by working with twins, and there isn't a lot of really great guidance on helping twins sleep all night. And so that's where I really felt like there's something twin parents do deserve to have good information, but also support from somebody who actually understands them.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of where twinsleep.com and the Twin Sleep Academy came from. So all of that.
I love that, and I think that is so key that you are a twin mom. So, I don't wanna put down any programs or anything, but I took a
Yeah.
course with my daughter, who's
Mhm.
obviously a singleton, and it was so helpful for her, it was so great. And then when it was time to kind of help the boys with their sleep, I rewatched the course
Mhm.
and just felt like, this isn't gonna work for us. And they had a very
Mhm.
small, like, bonus chapter on twins
Mhm.
that, quite honestly was not helpful. And I could tell, like, oh
Mhm.
man, this was not written by a twin mom. So I
Yeah.
think that is so huge is understanding sleep in general and then having the extra arm where you're like, "I am a twin mom."
Mhm.
Like, I have walked this road. So,
Yeah.
yeah, can you tell us more about your program?
Yeah, so I had the same experience. Actually, I didn't even know there was such a thing as a sleep course when my oldest was born, which is probably why even when she was 2 years old, she was getting up in the middle of the night. I did a lot of Google searching. This was 2016 when my twins were born, and it was all about the mom blogs, and there was just
Mm,
not good information. That was where I learned a lot of, like, sleep, uh training, like what that was. I think Babywise was like a really popular program at the
mm.
time. There was a book there was one book on twin sleep that I could find at least, and it was just teaching the cry it out method, like really extreme. It's like you put them in a room and you close the door and walk away and come back at 7 a.m. And
OMG.
that's really extreme.
Yes.
And, there was nothing kind of like in between. And then I also took, so when my 4th was born, I was having some issues with him. I learned a lot, but I was having some issues with him, and I then learned about, like, sleep courses, and I did, like, a mini course, or like, there was, like, an ebook or something that I could get, and I was like, "Oh, this was really helpful for, baby number 4." And I was thinking to myself, like, this never would have worked with my twins. And because it was very, like, hands on, which again, I love for singletons. But when it's just you, or if you are a parent and you have twins and then you have an older child, especially a toddler, and usually one parent is helping that child to bed and one parent is helping the twins to bed, and you are just outnumbered. So I just felt like, yeah, again, like twin parents just need actual solutions that can help their twins sleep. And what are the things that we need to do the heavy lifting for us? Things like routine, things like how we set up the nursery. Yes, sleep training, there are a million different sleep training methods. Some work better than others, but there are some that just are really, really difficult with twins. And again, I think the biggest factor in getting your twins to sleep really is the twin parent feeling like they can do this, like they are supported, like they are ready for it. Because some twin parents, they just are not, and that's fine. Some of them, they would rather be getting up and checking on their twins and cuddling them, for long periods of time in the night, or feeding them every time they wake up, even beyond when the child needs that feeding, rather than like going through like a type of sleep training, and that's totally fine and fair. And then sometimes, they just have to be in a place where they're ready to do that. Most of my families, they do not want to do the extreme, like
Sure.
leave their baby in a room. Now,
Right.
if that's what you want to do, like I have no judgment. Like I get it. Like twin parents are overwhelmed, but most people, I think that I talk to at least, they aren't wanting to do that. But they also are like, "I can't do these, like, super gentle, like, hands-on methods that are taught either." And so I really try to meet the parents where they are, and, find some of those kind of intermediate methods that they can use, and again, using some of those other structures in the day, and in the environment to do some of the heavy lifting for them, especially, if they're 1 to 1 or 1 to 2 with their twins, so
Well, I think it's so important that you said that, like, that the parents need to, like, be in a certain headspace to want to do
yeah,
that. Like, with
yeah.
my daughter, so she's a COVID baby. I had her in February of
Mhm.
2020,
Oh, wow.
and that was the most difficult postpartum. It's even more so than the boys because the situation
Yeah.
that I was in.
Oh my
We
gosh, yeah.
it was terrible. We had,
Yes.
no family help, not because they didn't want to, but because so I had 2
Yeah.
miscarriages before my daughter, and we were terrified. Like, we finally had a baby earthside, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Well, I don't know what this is." Like, our
Yeah.
little 3-week-old baby is so precious, and so we had no family help. My husband had a very intense job that he was considered an essential worker and worked 12 plus hours a day. Um,
Wow.
and he was also, like, using heavy machinery, and because of that, he slept in a different room. He was like, "I
Yeah.
cannot be sleep deprived, like, for safety reasons." So I
Right.
was alone, like,
Oh
completely alone
gosh.
for months on end. So for me, I was, like, so unbelievably ready. I was like my
Wow.
mental health was struggling.
Yeah.
So and I should clarify, I actually hired a, sleep coach, like a one-on-one sleep coach with my daughter, which
Okay.
was phenomenal, and then
Yeah.
down the road, purchased a course that I, like, kind of used, and then, like I mentioned with the boys, it wasn't very helpful. So I think that's huge, like, being in a place where you're ready. So with my daughter, that
Yeah.
point was 3 months where I was like, "I can't do this anymore. I'm gonna snap. I'm going to lose it." Where
Mhm.
with the boys,
Mhm.
it was a little bit different, and I think twins bring on unique situations that we can totally get into, one of which, like,
Mhm.
my boys share a room. So,
Mhm.
handling and that was very easy for us to do the night feeds and diaper changes to be in the same room. And
Yeah.
then the other thing was their weight. They were so small that our pediatrician was encouraging feedings throughout the night. So we really couldn't, like, quote unquote sleep train them
Right.
for several months. It was really closer to like the 8 or 9 month mark where they were
Mhm.
finally approved to not do a night feed,
Yeah.
which was
Yeah.
so different than my daughter, who was, born at a healthier weight and didn't struggle to gain weight like the boys did. So,
Right. Right. Well, yeah, and that's another dynamic, that most twins are born at least a few weeks premature. And so sometimes you are dealing with some of those growth issues. And so the standard sleep advice of like, yeah, by 6 months, drop the feed. Well, that doesn't always apply. And so I do try to be very cognizant of that some people aren't, ready to actually drop the feeding. And so that is something that I've been, learning more and working with families on helping them understand how they can still do, I say sleep training, but helping their babies learn how to sleep even when they have to feed them in the middle of the night,
mhm,
um, due to, whether it's because of, keeping their milk supply or, if they're breastfeeding or again, like the weight issue, especially with some of those preemie babies. Yeah. So that is something that I do. So I was working one to one with families, like how you hired your sleep
mhm,
coach. Um, and, I just found that a lot of twin families are in a situation where only one parent is working. And so shelling out, $400 to $600 was sort of just, it was a big ask. And like I was helping people and people were able to do that later on once they were sending their kids um, to daycare and both families were working. But I just, like I said, I remember those families that I worked with when I was a public health nurse, and they did not have that kind of money to spend on a sleep coach. And so I just remember, and I know like when my, like I said, when my twins were born, we were like to the penny, like figuring out how many nights can we get with a doula. And so
mhm,
I just wanted to offer like a better salute, like the sleep courses are great because they are lower priced. I wanted to offer something like that for twin parents, but I also feel like the courses really lack the support piece that
mm,
a one-to-one coach can give you. And so I decided in my program, I have built in support. So I do have families that, they're part of like our membership, which is included for, the first part of when they enter the course. Then they also get to be in the membership where they're getting support from me. And then they're getting support from other twin parents as well.
I love that. So you're, like, building a twin community.
Yeah.
That's
It's called the
great.
Twin Sleep Tribe, yeah, and so we support each other, and it's been really fun to see, like, other moms reaching out and other moms saying, "Oh, I've been there, like, I'm a few months further down the line than you," and so that's been great to see, and so I just, it's been a fun growing, experience to witness and to be part of over the last year because, yeah, like, we are just more than a footnote in a book or a course. I feel like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's like a bonus chapter on twins. It's like when you have twins, when you have, like, either whether you've adopted them or you're fostering them or you birthed them yourself or surrogacy or whatever. I have families from all different situations in my program. You do not feel like it is a footnote. Like
Mhm.
you're like, no, this is my like everyday reality
Mhm.
is, yeah, those room sharing dynamics, which at first, can be fantastic because, like you said, the feeding and the diaper changing, but kind of once they get to the point where now you can drop the feedings and the overnight diaper changes, now you're dealing with like, are they going to wake each other up? And how do we navigate that? Which again, like a lot of sleep consultants and sleep courses just don't address like the reality that parents either really want their twins to share a room or don't have another choice other than to keep their twins in the same room as each other. And sometimes I've worked with quite a few families, and I think this is, like Gen Z coming up the pike, like the economy has been so bad. A lot of them are in situations where their twins share a room with them. They're in a
Oh,
one-bedroom
wow.
apartment or they're living in the basement while as they're saving up to try to buy a house. I think things are hard right now when it comes to housing for, people that are in their 20s and early 30s. And they're having babies, which is fantastic, and they're having twins, which is even better, but it is hard when you're in a small space. So that is something that I've helped the families in my program work through that I just think, a footnote or a bonus chapter in a book or a course is not going to cover. So,
Mhm. Absolutely.
yeah.
And I think that's so huge. I think some advice that I've gotten is like, "Oh, just separate them." And I'm like, "Well, I don't want to."
Mhm.
And we do have a guest room that is set up as a guest room.
Yeah.
My husband's family lives out of state and they visit quite often, and
Yeah.
we don't have other space. So I didn't want one twin to feel like they don't have a bedroom and that their
Mm,
crib is in the guest room. Like, because
mhm.
then that feels unfair that one twin gets this cute decorated nursery, while this other twin feels like an afterthought that has to be separated because they're waking each other up. So
Yeah.
we just kind of figured it out and worked through
Yeah.
that. And our
Yeah.
boys will actually sleep through each other's wake ups nine out of 10 times. It's pretty
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
And that took time. I feel like they had to learn how to do that.
Mhm.
And it is incredible. Like, I think my husband and I, we talk about that often. Like, oh my goodness, he was crying because he pooped or whatever it might be. And
Yeah.
Wyatt just slept right through it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is amazing. I always liken sleep training or letting your children learn to sleep to like any other skill. I have a almost 2-year old right now. And so not long ago, he was learning how to walk. And my, at the time, 4-year old really, really wanted to help his little brother learn how to walk. And so he would like hold his hands and like, come on, you can do this. And like really try to like pull him along. And I'm like, Finn, at some point you have to just let go of him. Like he cannot learn to walk if you are always holding him up or like, you know, my twins, they were 9, I think at the time. And so they would just like, oh, well, I'll just carry him, and so I'm like, but he needs to learn, and so he's not gonna learn if we always are carrying him or always, like, trying to hold him up or whatever.
Hmm.
And so if you think about, like, sleep in the same way, like, number 1, you have to be not it actually, it comes walking comes whether you're ready or not, right? But the child needs to be in the right environment. You have hopefully been setting the stage by giving them good nutrition, you've been giving them floor time, tummy time to learn how to sit up on their own. You're not just going to like expect a 3-month-old to like get up and walk. So you're meeting your child where they are developmentally, but then also like you do have to kind of give them the time and the space to learn, to fall, to fail, and
Hmm.
you don't expect them just to like sleep through the night just because you tried something you read on the internet and now like this is a hack and now they should be able to just do this skill. It is going to take some time, especially depending on their age and whatever situation they're coming from. But it is amazing then, if you kind of liken it to walking, it's like one day I had one of my twins, he just like wouldn't. He just would not walk. And one day, honestly, he was 18 months and I was like, "Okay, we're like hitting now. We're like I need to start." The pediatrician said like, "If you're not walking by like next week, we need to start looking at, you know, some more evaluations." And he literally just got up and started walking. And so some kids just do that. And so you just have to like think about, yeah, giving them the right environment, the right structures the the space to practice, to fail, to fall, and to just keep trying and to not it's just not something you can do for them. Yeah.
I love that analogy. I think that's so great. Like, you cannot force anyone to walk. You can just help guide them,
Well,
and yeah, so I think that's really great. Do you have any, like, practical tips that twin parents can implement?
what I see is people like looking for a hack. They're like, they'll say, My twins aren't sleeping. What's the one thing I should do?" And,
Mm,
there are a couple things that might be kind of like a hack, but nothing alone. Like you could say, white noise, like that's a hack, to make sure your twins have white noise. Yeah, absolutely. But if they've taken too many naps during the day or like they're not getting up at a good time consistently every day, it doesn't matter what like white noise or hack or there's this like one trend that's like the butter. Like if you give your kids like a glob of like grass-fed butter before bed, they're gonna sleep better. Like, first of all, don't do that unless they're of an age where they can actually take in butter. But also like okay, but if there's too much light coming in, or if you're trying to put a kid to bed at, 10 p.m. and their like cortisol levels are just like going
mm,
crazy now, they're going to be screaming and out of their mind and it's going to be hard to get them to settle down. And then it's going to be hard for them to stay asleep, especially if they fell asleep in your arms. And now you're going to try to transfer them and expect them to, stay sleeping in a crib where maybe they've never slept before. So there is no one hack. It is definitely like from the parents, and this goes for all things parenting, right? Just like that consistency, holding
mhm.
boundaries, making sure they know that you are there, you love them, that you are present, that you have not abandoned them, and yet that you are expecting them to continue to meet developmental milestones as they grow. And so those are kind of my tips. Make sure you've got a good routine, consistency. There are sleep training methods that are better than others when it comes to twins, but honestly, at the end of the day, the training method itself is not nearly as important as the parent's ability to consistently implement it.
Mm,
So
mhm,
there are certain ages where like the gentle methods just I don't think they do well. However, I've had parents who are adamant they want to use gentle methods and they do it because they are able to be consistent with them. They are able to have the self-discipline in themselves to walk away when when it's time and not completely rock the child to sleep. And so it can work, but it really does come down to the parent making a choice that they are going to allow their children to learn, even if it doesn't always feel comfortable to them in terms of like if there is more crying. Some parents want like no crying at all, and they don't understand that some crying can definitely be good, to allow their children to feel the feeling of frustration and to feel the freedom to protest a change and still be safe and loved and have the parent present with them while allowing them to learn. So
well,
hopefully
that's
that
great.
makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think you're right, like, there's no one hack, like, "Oh, do this one magic thing and your kid's gonna sleep through the night." Like,
Right.
there are all these routines, things you can implement, but that I think what
Right.
you said was huge is consistency is key, and if you
Mhm.
try something one night and then you're like, "That didn't work," and then you don't try it again, well, then you're never gonna know if that actually worked because trying it once isn't enough. You need to show consistency, so I think
Yeah,
that's
it's like
really
my
helpful.
4-year-old last night was or 5-year-old, he's 5, was just so mad. I made dinner and, like, I put bell peppers in the spaghetti sauce, and he was like, "How dare you? Like, I love spaghetti, and you just, like, ruined it by putting these vegetables in there." And he's like, "I tried them once. I don't like them." And I'm like, "In our house, we try things, at least 5 times before we say we don't like it. And even if we don't like it, we know it's healthy, we know it's a good thing to eat, and so we're still gonna eat it." And so it's like that with parenting, right? You wouldn't just allow your child to say like, "Well, I tried bell peppers once and now I never like them and I never have to eat them again." You're still gonna, in theory, try to offer them. You might not be able
Sure.
to like force feed your child, but you're still gonna put it on their plate and, encourage them at least to try and eat it because you know that it's important for them to enjoy a variety of healthy food in order to grow and just live a fulfilling life, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I was thinking about when you were talking about your program, are there certain
Mhm.
ages that you specialize in, like infants and toddlerhood or
My program actually starts at birth. Of course, sleep training. Babies that are newborns aren't really ready for actual formal sleep training. And especially twins, it is going to look very different to be doing any kind of a sleep program with them early on. The main task is definitely feeding them and getting them to gain weight because if they don't do that, they will not sleep. Um,
Mm,
and so, but there are definitely things that parents can be doing in order to help the sleep process along. And so my program does start at birth and then actually goes up to 36 months. So I do have a separate toddler program that I just recently launched this year. So that was the 18 to 36-month age range. Again, you can help a child learn to sleep at any age. It's just going to look different, and our expectations are going to be different, and our priorities are going to be different with like a newborn versus a 3-year-old because 3-year-old
sure.
twins, may or may not be taking naps anymore, but we would definitely expect that they're able to sleep through the night without like a feeding unless there's some like drastic medical issue going on. So,
That's
yeah.
great. Well, that's all so helpful. Can you say I know you said your Instagram. Can you say that
Yep.
again and then your website and
Yeah.
anywhere that people can connect with you?
Yeah, so my website is just twinsleep.com. I do have blog articles there. I have a few podcast episodes that I've just dipped my toe in the water on podcasting. And then you can find out more about my program. My email, you can always email me questions, Laura, Laura, at twinsleep.com. And then I am on Instagram, twin.sleep.health. And if you are interested in learning more about sleep and some sleep solutions, I've started, like I said, a podcast, Twin Sleep Talk. And that's available on
Yay.
Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Yeah, I am definitely still learning a lot about podcasting. So, and then I'm on Facebook as well. I do have a free Facebook group where I answer questions that people have about sleep and twins. And that's Twin Sleep ZZZ is my user on Facebook, or I think you can just look up Twin Sleep Talk and you'll find my group. So,
Perfect, and I'll put all of that
yeah,
in the show notes so people can just, click and connect with you. So, that's all
sounds
so
good.
exciting. So, if you could have a heart to heart with a twin mom or give any twin mom a piece of advice, what would that be?
Um, I was thinking about this. A piece of advice would just be, uh, it gets better. My twins are 10 right now. I noticed one thing when my 3 oldest kids were really little. So when my twins were born, I had my 2-year-old. I had a lot of people come up to me all the time and say, "Just enjoy every moment." And I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, get out of here." It would just like enrage me to hear people say that. And then there were these other moms that would come up and say, "Don't worry, it gets better." And I started realizing those were the moms of twins. Those were
Mm,
the moms of triplets. I had a few triplet moms tell me, "Don't worry, it gets better." And that was always just really encouraging. and it's okay to not feel like you're enjoying every moment with your twins, especially those first 2 years, because it is really, really hard. I found it got really fun for me around 2 and a half. It felt like I got my time back because they started playing with each other, and my oldest daughter and even now my 2 little ones, they're like 2 years on, and finally my 5-year-old is starting to accept his little brother as a playmate, and it's felt like a long time coming, whereas twins, you get that time back earlier when when they turn about 2, 2.5, and they're happy to play with each other. It's so sweet to watch them grow together, and it's hard to even imagine that now. I can't I see my twins now, they're 10. Yes, they still fight like cats over, toys and Nintendo or whatever, but watching them become best friends and,
Mm,
be able to always have each other. They're in the same class at school together, for a variety of reasons, but to know that they're there together, it just, I don't know, nothing's better than watching your children enjoy each other's company.
mm,
Um, and they don't really do that the first 2 years. But after that, it is so fun and it's so fulfilling. And so that's what I would tell you is to just hang in there, take lots of pictures and you will I I know it's hard to believe it. You will look back on this time and remember some sweetness of it, but it's okay to feel like I'm just looking forward to the time where, they're potty trained and they can do their own seat belts and, all that sort of thing. So
so true. I love that, all of that, and I totally agree. So my boys are 2.5, so when you were saying all of
okay.
that, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you are so right." Like, something about that time frame just
Mhm.
feels I don't ever wanna say that twins are easy because it's not, but it feels less demanding.
Yes.
Um, and the first year, I don't remember.
Yep.
I don't remember. I
Yeah.
we did it somehow by the grace of God and a lot
Yep.
of family help, you know? And
Yeah.
then now, yes, my twins play so well together. Do they fight?
Mhm.
Of course they do. But
Yeah.
man, when they get into playing, I don't ever remember my daughter doing stuff like that with friends this
No.
early. It's like a twin thing.
Yeah.
And it's super cool. And yeah, the whole reason I feel like I had the capacity to start a podcast was because of the age that they are. There's no way
Yes.
I could have had the creative, even like mindset to do anything like this until they were over the age of 2.5. So,
Totally. Well, and that's probably yeah, like, I mean, mine are 10, and I just when they turned, like, 8 was like, "Oh, I could probably start doing some things, like, that I wanna do." Yeah, because I just remember my daughter, she would, like, come and just hang on me during dinner time, like, "There's nobody to play with."
oh,
And when I had the twins, I was like, you have 2 little brothers." And when they were babies, she would be like, "They don't count." And then it's so sweet when they turned about 2, she started really playing with them more and, like, she would play school with them, and they were, like, her little students. One of them came and he started singing the ABCs to me, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I never taught you the ABCs. How did you learn the ABCs?" She's
thanks,
like, "I
sis.
taught it to him in school." Like, "I didn't know
That's
you were
so cute.
actually." Yeah, but, they just had this whole world, the 3 of them. And, like, you have your oldest that's is close in age, and it's just so sweet, like, and then watching them, bring in their younger brother when he was the first younger brother that was born and just kind of bring him into their world. It was just so, so special. And, it helps. I had so much mom guilt those first few years. Like, why can't I just enjoy this? Why did I have to have 2 at
Mm,
the same time? Why can't I be like other moms, out and about doing this and that? And I just like felt really homebound a lot of the time and felt like I wasn't giving them the attention that they needed, like as much attention as I gave my daughter, feeling like somehow I was depriving them of an experience when actually like they they had each other and I didn't realize what a gift that was to them that I was giving them without even meaning to, that they were
mm,
getting the gift of having a built-in, best friend that really deeply understands them and that cares about them in a way that even their other siblings don't quite get, you know?
Hmm.
And I think that is so, so precious. And I just didn't see it until they got to be older. So I wish I wouldn't have had so much guilt. Maybe that's the thing that I would mostly tell twin moms is just don't feel ashamed. Don't you're doing your best. You're doing a great job. You're listening to this podcast, so you're obviously, trying to learn more and be a better mom for your kids. And so just drop the shame, drop the guilt, and know that you're doing an amazing job, and we're all here cheering for you. And we know that you are raising amazing humans, and we want to be here to support you as you do that. And you have a whole tribe of other twin moms that have the same goal for you. So
Aw, I love all of that, and thank you for coming on today and for all that you do. Like, we talked about twin sleep is a huge area where there's not a lot of help, so I'm so glad that you have a resource that is specific for twin parents, and we're not just like a bonus chapter or like a
yep,
footnote, like you said. I love that. Like, we deserve a whole course, and I'm so glad that you have that. So, go check out her course. Well, Laura, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I really appreciate it.
thank you so much for having me. It was very fun.
Thank you for taking the time out of your busy twin mom life to listen along. I hope this podcast shed some light on a topic that's been on your heart and gave you more confidence as a twin mama. If you know a twin mom, please send this her way. If you like what you heard today, please subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Check out the show notes to be connected with today's guest and get discount codes for brands I love. See you next Thursday. Until then, you were made for this.